turn to the first handout. It's called handout number 1. And what we found in our first piece of research, and it was subsequently verified in a couple of other pieces of research that we did, that there really are 3 kinds of overindulgence. When I talk about this, or I'm on a plane or going here or there and meet people, and I'll tell them, they ask what I do, and I tell them, and they say, oh yeah, I know what that is, it's spoiling children's, you know. And I say, yeah, that's probably part of it, but there's more to it than that. It really, you can overindulge children, we found out, in 3 different ways. One we call too much. The second type we call overnurture. That's sort of synonymous with helicopter parenting or smothering. And the third one we call soft structure. It's about not having rules, or it's not enforcing the rules that you have, or it's not having chores, those type of things. So you can do 1, 2, or all 3. And to give you some examples of what we're talking about in terms of each of those, for instance, too much. For example, this weekend your daughter is in T-ball, your son is involved in scouts, and your youngest daughter has clarinet lessons all at the same time. You never have any quality time because you're a taxi service carting your kids to all of their events. In this case, that'd be too much. You know, you've overscheduled your kids, or they've overscheduled each other, or you've overscheduled the whole family. It's not just kids. Parents can overschedule themselves too and become very, very hectic. That's one example. So we're talking about toys, we're talking about clothes, privileges, entertainment, seeing that your children are constantly entertained all the time. You know, what happened to self-play, especially for younger children? You know, the last time I went over to a friend's house and they had a little one, you know, 6 adults are hovered around and we're just, you know, looking, focusing every second on that child. Too many sports, too many camps, too much screen time. That can be problematic also. So too much of almost anything. A recent survey found before age 1, 36% of children had touched or scrolled a screen, 24% called someone, 52% watched TV, 1 in 7 toddlers were on mobile media or for at least 1 hour a day. Now that's far more than the American Pediatric Association even recommends for a child this age. I won't go into great detail, but the human brain starts developing at conception and doesn't stop until age 25. There's lots of brain development going on, especially in those early years. But what happens is the brain kind of pairs off synapses and pairs off neurons and so forth. Think of it this way: if you run down the same track, I'm this way, at least with my computer. I have to go down, there's 10 ways to do everything. I don't know why they make it that way, but they do. But if I don't go down the same track each time, I'm sort of lost. Well, that's what we do with our children if we plop them in front of a screen device. They're just pairing off those neurons, pairing off those synapses, and pretty soon all they can do is go down one path. I encourage you, I'm not going to put it up here, but encourage you, if you're concerned about that, go look at the American Pediatrics Association's recommendations for screen time. And I would strongly encourage you to follow it. An incredible 53% of all 6-year-olds already have their own mobile device, according to a survey of 2,290 US parents. Now, I know a lot of parents say, well, it's because of safety and so forth and so on. And that may be a valuable thing, but I guess my question is, how young is too young for their own phone? Trust me, kids that age and older aren't using it for safety, they're using it for all kinds of other things. Or this cartoon, he's got his high-speed broadband, internet connection, his cell phone, his iPod, Game Boy, dish TV, PlayStation, satellite, Radio, did we make a mistake sending him to his room 3 years ago? You know, sometimes we've sent him off to Disney World, really, you know, where all the good stuff is. Or this one, I took this photograph in Florida this last summer. I can't imagine them selling this, but they do. Bank of Dad, credit card, and then below that, spoiled kid. Valid through seems like forever. Maybe some of you already have some boomerang kids that are back at home after college or wherever. Seems like forever. And then on the bottom it says, my kids buy cool stuff and never see the bill. You know, well, maybe we need to do a little canceling of some of those cards. The second type of overindulgence that we want to consider or think about is what we call overnurture. And for example, your 4-year-old should be able to tie her own shoes, but doesn't know how to because you do it all of the time for her. Besides, it's faster and it's better that way. Or another example, your son, a senior in high school, has not begun to look for colleges, let alone apply, so you fill out all the applications and send them off for him. Now, these are real live examples. I've gotten permission to share them, and in our book it's filled with examples too, and we've gotten permission to share them. Sometimes I'll share these and some parents will come up to me afterwards and be mad and angry. You didn't have permission, how did you know? How did you know that was me and you put that up there? How dare you do that? No, some of these are kind of universal too. So, doing things for kids that they should be doing for themselves. In our first study, we looked at 720 adults, most of whom were overindulged as children. And we found these 3 types of overindulgence, but the one that really stood out was overnurture. It was, I couldn't believe we got these parents to fill this out, and I'd never do it again because it took me 2 years to code it and analyze it, but it was a 24-page survey that they filled out, and some of them literally wrote books. And I had taught my college students to be research assistants, and then they would code along with me. And they would keep coming over to me and say, Dr. B, you got to read this one. You can't believe this one. They'd gone on to the backside and written 3 pages, you know. And in most of those cases, they were overindulged as children, mostly by overnurture. At the time, they really liked it. You know, hey, it's cool. I mean, mom, dad do everything for me. I don't have to do anything. Hey, this is all right. But when they got older and they got out of the house or down the road, what they found out, they were mad as heck. These people, as adults, were mad as heck at their parents because they didn't have skills that they could use in adult life. So what some of them did was they found a spouse that had skills and a spouse that then would overindulge them. And they figured it out that way. You know, it might work for you, it might not. One of the individuals in the book that story that sticks out in my head, she was overindulged as a child, came from a fairly wealthy family, even had maids, so they did her clothes and everything and so forth. Well, when she went to college, and this was back in the days when you had 2 or 3 roommates, and she had several roommates, and the first week of college she asked her roommates, okay, can one of you be so kind to tell me which one of these is the washer and which one is the dryer? She didn't even know what that was and how to do that. It became the running joke of all 4 years because each time she'd go to ask them how to do something that she didn't know how to do and they thought was so simple, you should have learned that way back when, they just ridiculed her. So then finally she shut up, you know, and she was the one clearly, and she even said it, we reported in the book, she found somebody, a husband that would overindulge her and take care of her. He had skills. I don't know if she ever did learn skills. So overnurture can be overloving, it can be providing too much attention, It can be doing things that children should be doing for themselves. Another thing that we learn from psychology is there's like a teachable moment. There are times in our life and development where we learn things better. Can you learn them later? Yeah. But it's harder. But when you're supposed to learn it, it's much easier. It's a challenge, but it's much easier. For instance, about age 2, you start talking and walking, you know? Now, if you put that off, it's much harder. Can you learn to talk and walk later? Yeah, you can. But almost everything is like that. And so when we do things for kids that they should be doing for themselves, we're really robbing them an opportunity to learn some very valuable kinds of things. Are they going to struggle a little bit in the process? Yes. Is that part of being human? Yes. I'm not saying, and my colleagues, my co-authors aren't saying you should torture your children, you know. No. You give them the resources that they need. You even become good teachers and give them some structure, but in the end, they really do need to learn how to do some things for themselves. And they're going to feel better at it in the process. Here's a favorite cartoon, Dennis the Menace. So why are we stopping for a break? You know, I'm not tired yet. Well, it reminds me of, I was just in the grocery store just the other day, and there was, he must have been 10, I think 10, 8, 9, 10, something like that. He was sitting in one grocery cart basket, playing a game or iPad or some device, while Mom was pulling the second cart with all the groceries in it. You know? It's not too far from the truth. Or there's also this, some parents are so afraid of the big bad world, and trust me, there is bad out there. There's plenty of good too, but it's like they put them in cellophane and want to protect them forever. Well, that's not healthy either. A recent study suggests that kids with over-involved parents and rigidly structured childhoods suffer psychological blowback in college. This study, 2012 study of 438 college students reported in the Journal of Adolescence, found initial evidence for this form of intrusive parenting being linked to problematic development in emerging adulthood. By limiting opportunities for emerging adults to practice and develop important skills needed for becoming self-reliant adults. You'll see, I don't know that it's only related to it. It certainly is not. But you'll see reports now that very high percentage of college freshmen and sophomores and juniors are experiencing some real challenging psychological problems and other issues. Soft structure, the third type of overindulgence that we know about. For example, you're a single mom with a limited income, you feel guilty that you can't afford to buy your son many of the things he wants, so you don't enforce the rules and let him stay up way past his bedtime on a school night, midnight. That's just one example. So soft structure, no chores, no rules, not enforcing the rules, not expected to learn skills. Now, one of the things I would encourage you to do, if you haven't gotten one already, is get you a chore chart. Figure out who does what, and this means your chores too. I sometimes think it's important for parents to put their chores on the chart too, because their kids need to know that they're contributing to the family too. I personally believe that every family member needs to contribute something to the family. And for somebody that's really young, it's something. It might be helping set the dining room table, and yes, they can do that. Or it might be something more sophisticated the older they get. But everybody needs to add to the endeavor of the family. Having some house rules, I came across this one, I like it. You might not, you might adopt it. If you sleep, make it up. If you step on it, wipe it up. If you wear it, hang it up. If you drop it, pick it up. If you eat out of it, wash it. If it rings, answer it. If it howls, feed it. You know, that's not too bad.